free world.
Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking to stay out the streets. Yeah. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so weak. Yeah. My hitters be moving and shaking to stay out the streets. Yeah. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster, snuff the money mover. Snuff the hater, snuff the player, snuff your hairline, tape up and shape up. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster.
Hail to the culture. We are back once again, and this time we are live from Redskins Training Camp in Richmond, Virginia. Of course, as always, it's Bryce with my boy Rome. Rome, what up, bro?
What up?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much, man. It's an exciting day. We're getting to check out our skins up close and personal. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about at this training camp. Seems like there's always something to talk about when it comes to the skins, but it's not all bad, especially if you at training camp seeing these performances, man. It's not all bad. So let's start off with some of the bad, and let's jump right into the state of the culture with Trent Williams' holdout, man. Rome, man, give me some initial thoughts, man. How are you first feeling when you heard about Trent, and where do you stand on it now?
So there's a lot going on with the Trent Williams holdout, man. If you guys don't already know, it stems from an injury. Well, he was injured last season, and when he was being diagnosed with his injury, apparently the medical staff missed that he had a tumor. I'm not sure how the Redskins medical staff would have checked for that or would not have checked for that. But the gist is he got a second opinion, and he had a tumor which has since been removed. His health is currently good from what I've heard. And but obviously he's a little upset with Washington, as I think most people would be if you went to a doctor's office and they didn't mention a tumor, and you go to another doctor and they do, you'd probably be a little upset too. So it's not just the contract, as a lot of people are saying. Like, the contract has a lot to do with it, but I think he wanted to make a bit of a statement by not showing up to camp with this scare that he had with his injury. But me personally, I don't know how you feel, Bryce, but I'm not as worried as some of these other blogs and reporters that have talked about this Trent Williams situation. Some blogs are saying we should trade Trent Williams. Some fans are saying just trade him. I'm more of the mindset if you just pay this guy. Trent Williams is a great left tackle, one of the best in the game, but he is dwindling down in his career, and I could see why some people would want to trade him. But what are you really going to get for Trent Williams at this point? He's not, like, people know that he's in the last stage of his career. He's trying to get one more contract, and I think it's time to show some loyalty to this man. Trent has done a lot for this franchise. We just got a rookie quarterback, and we're definitely going to need Trent moving forward. What are you thinking about this Trent Williams situation, though, man?
Well, I mean, for starters, I couldn't agree more with you, man. I think we got to pay the man. I think we got to pay the man. Any fan suggesting or blog suggesting that we should trade him, I have a couple problems with that. Number one, we're not going to get the return value that we would deserve for that type of talent. I mean, like you kind of say, what are we really going to get for him? We're probably looking at a third and a fifth, maybe a second and a fifth if we're lucky. Yeah. And that's just not the value you want for, a 95 overall on that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's not what you want, especially for Trent Williams. The guy's been, one of the cornerstones of this franchise for a few years now. Now, since this whole ordeal has gone on, the Redskins have had to make some adjustments, and one of those adjustments they've made is bringing in other tackles to compete. Now, they brought in two guys. The biggest name that they brought in is Donald Penn. Now, if they sign Donald Penn, I will start to get worried, because the Donald Penn signing, if they just sign more camp bodies just to play tackle, I'm not that worried. But once it becomes a Donald Penn, that to me sounds more like a replacement. That to me sounds like they know more than they're letting off, and that to me sounds like maybe Trent's holdout is serious, or maybe it goes into the season if they're willing to spend the money it would take to bring in a guy like Donald Penn.
Well, Gruden did say that part of the reason that they were looking at other tackles is because Jerron Christian is also currently being held out of practice. I think he did some individual drills today. I didn't see him, but I think that was the plan. So they're just thin overall, especially since losing Todd Niski. They're just thin at tackle. They did sign Charles Robinson, somebody named – I'm not exactly sure who. He was out there with the third team, though. So, I mean, he's definitely not going to be a Trent Williams replacement. And if we're being honest, there is no Trent Williams replacement. Donald Penn would be a suitable starter, I believe, if it came down to that. But Trent Williams changes the outcome of the season. I mean, I think we both agree there for sure.
Yeah, man, no doubt. No Trent Williams changes things big time. And like Ryan Kerrigan said at yesterday's practice, man, we need Trent Williams here. And that just is what it is. The Redskins need Trent. And hopefully, you know, they're able to sweeten the pot enough to get him to come back and, you know, get this line where it needs to be. So sticking on the line, we have more than one problem. We have more than just a Trent problem on the line right now, as you all are very aware of. Brandon Sheriff is in the final year of his contract, and Brandon Sheriff has become one of the best guards in all of football. But Brandon Sheriff does not have a contract for next season, or at least the season after this one. Unlike Trent, he's decided not to hold out. He's at camp. He's working hard, and he's even talking about the contract situation. He says he wants to be here, which leads you to wonder, why hasn't the deal got done? Rome, where do you stand on Brandon Sheriff? Is he a must sign? How do you feel about this situation?
Brandon Sheriff is definitely a must sign, and I think he would already be signed had Trent not kind of surprised the team with this holdout. They're going to have to find a way to get both of them signed. If this ends up being Brandon's last season in Washington and Trent doesn't get a new deal either, then, I mean, the outlook of this offensive line could change greatly. And for a team with a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins and a team that plans on running the ball as much as Washington plans on it with A.P. Geis and Chris Thompson, your offensive line is going to be very important. Brandon Sheriff especially, if you go back to last season, the run game took a nosedive. Well, not a nosedive, but it definitely took a hit when Sheriff got hurt in that Atlanta game. It wasn't the same. The holes weren't opening up the same, and there was more injuries. But Brandon Sheriff is huge in the run game. He's quick enough to be a force when he pulls, and he just clears the way for guys like AP, Chris Thompson, whoever's running the rock, really. So when it comes to Brandon Sheriff, I hold him up there pretty much with Trent Williams. What do you think about Brandon Sheriff's situation?
Man, I agree with you that Brandon Sheriff is a must sign. If we leave from this training camp or from this offseason without Brandon Sheriff signed, I would be super worried because, I mean, a philosophy of good organizations in the NFL is to re-sign your own and to, you know, show the other players that if you come here, you work hard and you play well, you get rewarded. And that makes players work even harder for your franchise. And I think we should set that precedent with a guy like Sheriff, mainly because he's been exactly what we could have hoped for. I mean, sure, he didn't end up being the tackle he was drafted to be, but instead we got one of the best guards in football. I think that's all you can ask for. I mean, the top guards in the league, it's going to take $14, $15 million now. It just is what it is. So Skins need to give him that bread. The cap is going to rise every season regardless. So 3 years from now, you know, the deal won't even look all
Quick question. Who do you think is more important to sign, Trent or Brandon?
That is a great question. And I would say it depends who's starting. If Dwayne Haskins is our starter, Trent Williams is the most important player on the offensive line. But if we go with Case Keenum or Colt McCoy, more of a veteran presence, a guy that I would trust to get the ball out a little bit quicker, a little bit more efficient, then I'd say Brandon Sheriff because the run game will be that much more important. But, yeah, man, those guys might just be equally important to this football team, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to see what we do without either. But how long exactly do you think this Trent Williams holdout will last? Do you see him coming back by week 1?
I do. I see Trent being back because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to leave on the table. I mean, you're talking about almost $1 million a game, and on top of that, he's missing out on $40,000 every day right now. You know, so
yeah, it's a $40,000 day for him today.
It's a $40,000. Think about that, man. It's a $40,000 day for this man today. Like some of us will never even dream of a $40,000 day.
Yeah.
And he's losing that off of one practice. So obviously, the issue he has with the team is legitimate, or else nobody would willingly lose out on $40,000. So I mean, let's just put that in perspective.
Know how serious he was about that injury. But let's move on from the O-line real quick because there's a lot of camp battles to talk about. As we're putting out pods weekly here now that training camp has started, the 2019 season is officially underway, man. I don't know about you, but I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
So there's going to be plenty of camp battles to talk about. We're going to give you guys 2-a-days and So each pod we're gonna drop, we're gonna give you guys 2 position battles that we're gonna dive into. So today, I believe we're diving into DBs and wide receivers.
Yeah, man. Let's start with the wideouts, man, because that position, we had some good talks about that position, man, over the last week or two. And if you had to lock in, okay, let's start with here, man. Let's start with this, man. If you had to pencil in 2 starting wide receivers right now, today, X and a Y, who are you going with at your X? Who are you going with at your Y?
Richardson at X, Doxson at Y.
Okay.
Maybe even a flip-flop, depending on what exactly Gruden wants to do. They like to switch things up in Washington. Doxson isn't an ideal X, in my opinion, but he can run it.
Yeah, he can fit. Okay, so if you say Doxson is X, and then at Y we got Richardson, then we're gonna have to say, all right. So we got two locked in, right? What do we think? We're thinking maybe you carry 6 wideouts, 5 is likely 6 at the most. So let's say we got Doxson, Richardson. That's 2. We got Trey Quinn at the slot. We agreeing on that?
Yeah, definitely.
So then we throw Quinn at the slot. So that leaves us 3 wideouts right now. We got Josh Doxson, we got Paul Richardson, we got Trey Quinn. Now this is where it gets a little more difficult to pencil guys in. So,
just a little.
So we'll start with our 2 rookies. I mean, Terry McLaurin, 3rd-round draft pick. You got to think that he's a lock to make the team. He's looked good in the limited time we've seen him in camp. Rome, what are you thinking from Terry right now? What have you liked?
I think if he keeps on the trajectory that he is, man, I think he's going to be our starting slot guy over Quinn. And depending on how injuries go, because, Richardson Jr. is coming back from an injury, and Doxson, I don't know if he's injury prone or not, but he seems to get nicked up every here and there. So I can see Terry taking one of the starting spots by the end of the season, if not by week 1, depending on how well he plays in the preseason. Another thing about him that Gruden keeps raving about is his blocking ability. So if we're going to run the ball as much as we both believe that we are, his blocking ability in the run game is gonna make a big difference in that. But there's a lot of guys clamoring for this. I would say he's a lock as the 4th receiver. But what about that 5th and 6th spot, man? Because there's a lot of guys on this current roster that we're looking at. You got Robert Davis, Davon Kinsey, Brian Quick still out there. We can't forget about Cam Sims. You want to talk about the other rookie? There's another, you know what I mean?
There's a ton, man. There's a ton. Yeah, so we can't leave Cam Sims out of the conversation. I mean, he exploded on this scene last year, had a crazy off season last year, training camp, even shined in the preseason, going over 100 yards in the preseason. So I think Cam Sims makes the team. I mean, they loved him last year. If it wasn't for an injury, he probably makes your squad all year. Probably never goes down to practice squad. He would probably get nabbed if he did. So I think Cam Sims, I would pencil him in as that 5th guy. So then we're talking about potentially one spot for the likes of Kelvin Harmon, Brian Quick, the veteran, Robert Davis. I don't know if you guys remember Robert Davis, but, man, this guy's a physical freak, fast, big, athletic. I mean, he's got all the tools. I mean,
Chesson made the team last year.
Jay Chesson came in last year and gave some valuable snaps.
That matters too.
That's a big thing when you're talking about
especially that 6th receiver spot.
So there's going to be some guys. One guy to keep an eye on, who I did some extensive film work on, is Steven Sims out of Kansas. Man, this guy's a baller. Now you don't usually think of Kansas as a big time football program. But, man, he was essentially a huge part of their offense. He was the electricity in that Kansas offense. And, man, this guy is a 4.3 guy. He's quick. He's fast. He gets up and down the field. Man, he's my dark horse to really shake things up in the wide receiver group. I think he actually has a shot to possibly make the team. So when we get to talk about these receivers, man, it's going to be a battle. And the great thing about this, Roman, we spoke about this while we were watching some of the action from camp earlier, is when you're watching these guys, and Colt McCoy actually said this. He said this is the best receiver group he's been around in 10 years. And he was here when we had Pierre. He was here when we had Deshaun. So that goes – to me, that says a lot. If a guy like that looks at this receiver group as that good. So when you're cutting good players, that you're starting to field a good team. Every year, the good teams cut the best players, because those are teams that cut the best free agents because they have an excess of good players. And there's certain position groups that the Redskins are starting to have to do that, And we're actually going to transition to another position group where they're going to have to start to do that, and that's cornerback. Because the corner position, man, things have changed. Just 2 seasons ago, how worried were we as Redskins fans about the state of our corners? And now we're going to end up cutting a couple really good corners. So, Rome, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. Have you start us off with this?
So there's a lot of good depth at the cornerback position. But let's start it like we started with the receivers. So our 3 starters, obviously Josh Norman. When you pay someone that much money, he's going to be your number 1 guy. Quentin Dunbar should resume his role on the outside across from him. He's definitely earned that spot and deserved it. One thing about Dunbar, a quick note, he's coming back off that injury, and he has been full go. So it'll be interesting to see how much that slowed down his development from last season. Because if you remember, there was points where people were saying he's looking better than Norman was out there. So if Dunbar can continue to develop into a number 1 corner, that'll be very, very good for this team. But in the slot, they're going with Fabian Moreau again. So obviously Norman, Dunbar, Moreau are your locks. And then from there, it gets a little bit like receiver. I'm assuming they might keep maybe 5 corners, maybe not 6. Maybe the 6th one's on the practice squad or something like that. But game day, you'll probably be suiting up 5. So your other 2 behind Monroe, Dunbar, and Norman are probably looking like maybe Greg Stroman. He definitely got a lot of playing time last year. We still got DRC, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, on the team. It'll be interesting to see what his role ends up being if he's not going to be in the slot over Moreau. Then you got another guy who can play the slot in Jimmy Moreland, who has been balling all summer. That name, if you haven't heard of that name yet, you either not listening to this podcast or you're not paying attention to the Redskins, because Jimmy Moreland is definitely going to be a player. I would like to say he's a lot to make this team. But then there's a guy that you were talking about earlier, man, and Adonis Alexander. They drafted him last year too in the supplemental draft. Like, they're pretty deep at DB, man, and a couple of these guys that I just named aren't going to be on this team, even though they're all pretty damn good players. So out of those guys that I named, who do you think is going to make this squad? If they go 5, and the top 3 are Monroe, Dunbar, Norman, who are your last 2?
If they go 5, man, I think it's tough. If they go Dunbar, Moreau, and then you got Norman, I think Moreland makes the team. The thing we've been hearing about Jimmy Moreland has just been too electric. He's the most recent draft pick, so recency does give you a little bit of a favor over some guys who were drafted a little longer ago. So I think Moreland makes the team. So that's my 4th guy. Now that 5th spot on the inside, just to keep 5, it gets tough because obviously you got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. This is a veteran. This is a guy that knows how to defend top-notch NFL wide receivers because he's done it. But they may want to get a guy that is, that they feel can grow more in the slot role and back up that slot position. One guy who's starting to get a little bit forgotten about is Danny Johnson. Danny Johnson played in some crucial moments for the Skins last year. And he performed pretty well. I mean, initially he was beating out Stroman for those slot reps. Mm-hmm. And so Danny Johnson's another player, man. I like him a lot. So, man, they're gonna have some tough decisions on their hands. Like you said, we even got Adonis Alexander still. I mean, that's a 6th-round pick when you talk about the supplemental draft. So there's another guy you might want to keep around. One thing to keep note on is the fact that Torian Gray, former Virginia Tech defensive coach, was the defensive backs coach with the Redskins, is no longer with the Redskins this season. So that could mean that those guys like Adonis Alexander and Greg Stroman, they might have a little bit less of a crowd in their corner, banging on the table for them to get in the game with Torian Gray gone. So it's going to be an interesting battle, man. It's going to be an interesting battle. But if it came down to it for me, I'd probably say DRC and Moreland. But I do still see one of Stroman and Danny Johnson make the team, so I think they'll go with 6.
Yeah, it'll be hard to imagine them cutting Stroman and Alexander. I think one of them's not going to make the team. And it'd be real surprising to see Jimmy Moreland not make the team after all we've heard about him. I mean, they just put the pads on today. Today was the first padded practice. So that's really where they're going to decide how good Jimmy Moreland is. Everything you hear about him and his cover skills is he's incredible. And for what I've seen, he has been incredible. But it's going to come down to run support because playing slot isn't just covering. There's a lot of run support. But while we're talking about the slot corner, that brings me back to DRC, man. It's almost like last year they signed Skandrick to kind of fill that similar role that DRC is kind of filling right now, and they cut him before the season even started. So my mind is set is like, what are we signing DRC for? Like, what if Dunbar is not as healthy as they're saying, then maybe that could be a reason. But I don't really see where Rogers Cromartie fits in. I mean, he's an older guy, retired last year, came back. So do you really want to keep him on the roster, or do you want to have a situation where you have a lot of young guys like Jimmy Moreland, Greg Stroman, and Adonis Alexander? Now, you don't have very much experience in that group, but you do have a group that you can develop. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what exactly they do. And these preseason games in the third and fourth quarter will be very interesting because how they play in those games will mean a lot to these corners and these receivers that we just named, a lot. And as you all know, the QB position battle is going to be raging too. So you're going to have to keep your eye on all these preseason games, man. This will be an interesting preseason. I'm always excited for that as I am for the regular season.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. Don't sleep on the preseason. The truest of true fans never do. We got some big position battles to keep an eye on, and we're like Rome said, we'll be coming at you guys with two of those position battles all the way up until the season.
Yeah, man. So let's stick with the defense right now. We just talked about DBs and this secondary. You mentioned how we're getting in a spot where they're going to start cutting good players, and that's a sign of a good team. So just how good can this team be defensively? Like what are you seeing? Because let's name some of these starters right now. I mean, we're just out there. We saw Kerrigan, Sweat, Payne, Ioannidis, Allen. I mean, that front seven right there sounds like it could be pretty damn dominant to me. What are your thoughts, Bryce?
Man, bro, I think this defense has the chance to be, and I am not exaggerating, I think this has the chance to be the best defense of my Redskins fandom. And this is to be honest, man. Like, when I look at that front seven, I look at what we've built. And I'm not saying what we have. I'm talking about what we've built with those three guys on the D-line.
Keep in mind, we had some pretty dominant years with Sean Taylor.
We did.
And
we
some
did.
other ballers on the team.
We did. But one thing that I'll say that we've never had a menacing pass rush. We've had some moments on pass rush where, you know, it was nice. But we've never had the type of inside push that we're going to generate with this defense. At least the potential that this defense has to generate that inside push. And I believe that in today's NFL, that's the biggest thing is getting that push up the middle. And we got that for days right now, man. I mean, when I look at this defense, I truly do believe the sky's the limit. I think you're talking about a defense that's in the first year of dominance. I really do believe that. I mean, if you look at some of these teams that have gone on big runs and been successful for an extended period of time, you talk about the Seahawks. Let's even talk about the Broncos. You know, even you can look at an up-and-coming team like the Bears. I mean, these teams, they all starting with defense, you know. You get the defense, and the rest will come. Because if you have a defense that can eat up some clock, that can eat up the TOP, that can really force the hand of the opposing team's offense, force them to pass the ball, force them to be one-dimensional, man, you're talking about a defense that can essentially carry your team. And I truly do think that that's where the Redskins are approaching if they continue to build. It's all about building. Continue to build, continue to add pieces. And this could be the first year of a string of dominant years for the Washington Redskins defense.
Yeah, man, I agree with every word that you just said, man. Like, looking at this, we just named the front seven. Let's look at this back half. Norman, Dunbar, Collins, and Monte Nicholson in the secondary. I really like that too, personally, man. If Dunbar is healthy, man, and he's back to where he was last season, he's a damn good corner. You already know how I feel about Josh Norman and Landon Collins, man. I don't even got to hype that, man. He's a monster. And I really, really, really like Monte Nicholson. I was big on him ever since they drafted him. His rookie year, I liked the way that he played. And although I was kind of big on the HaHa Clinton Dix trade, I was a fan of it at the moment. But, I mean, in hindsight, and even when it happened, I always felt like it was kind of going to hinder Monte Nicholson. And I would have been fine with it had HaHa panned out. But, I mean, he played, like 8 games for us? Something like that, you know. So I'm excited to see where Monte's at. We just listened to an interview with him, man. He sounds like he's in a good space, good headspace. Seems like he's very focused. And, I mean, yeah, man, Washington needs a big year out of him. The most interesting spot on the defense right now is going to be the inside linebacker spot. If you guys hadn't already heard, we cut Mason Foster. If you didn't already know, Reuben Foster is out for the season with a devastating injury. that leaves us with John Bostic and Sean Deion Hamilton. I think it's probably safe to say that's the weakest spot, position spot on the team right now. Yeah. With Bostic and Hamilton. Hamilton's coming back from an injury in college, so he didn't play too much his rookie year. But they say he looks fast, man, and he's flying around making big plays. But with that front seven, man, with Payne and Ioannidis and them boys in front, I don't even think it almost matters who's an inside linebacker for Washington, man. If you can just do your job and be solid, then you're going to make plays because the boys up front are something serious, man. So I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. I don't know if it'll be the best defense of my Washington Redskins lifetime, but I'm going to go ahead and say it right now, man, before we even hit August. This will be a top 10 Redskins defense. July 27th, top 10 Redskins defense, man. I guarantee by the end of 2019 season, the Redskins defense, regardless of the overall team record, regardless of how bad or good we do, because there's a lot of other factors, the offense scares me. But I think this will be a top 10 defense. I think this will be a better defense, the best defense in the NFC East, a better defense than the Eagles and the Cowboys defense. You heard it here, Health to the Culture first. And I'm not just bloviating. I'm not just bloviating, man. I really mean that. Montez Sweat's going to be special. Kerrigan's going to be consistent. I can't talk enough about Ioannidis, Payne, and Allen, man. And like I just talked about this secondary, man. These Redskins are putting together something on defense, something real good.
No, it's definitely special, man. It's definitely special. And when you're talking about the weakest groups along the defense, and we pointing at Sean Deion Hamilton and John Bostic, it could be a lot worse, and it has been a lot worse in the past. You know, I mean, we're finally starting to put together units where we're building on strength. You know, with our D-line, we built on the strength. With our corners, we're starting to build on strength. With our pass rush, we're starting to build on strength. And we can just keep that going, man. This defense will be here for years to come. And one other thing, man, that we didn't really point out is all the key members of this defense are young. Yeah, they've got a chance to really grow together. Because I mean, who's the oldest guy on the defense? You got Kerrigan, but after Kerrigan, yeah, Norman,
and our front seven, I think Kerrigan's the only one in his 30s. Everybody else under 25.
Everybody else on the entire defense might be under 25, except Kerrigan and Norman. Yeah, think about that.
That's crazy,
that's crazy, man. I mean, I don't know Bostic. I'm not sure of Bostic's age, but he's only been in the league for 4 years. So I mean,
he's not in his
he's not that old. Yeah. So, and he's not. You know, we're not relying on him to be a piece to grow with anyway. So all the pieces on this defense, the building blocks are all. 28. Yeah. So all the building blocks, man, are under 30, and all the building blocks are under 25, and all the pieces outside of Norman and Kerrigan are under 30. So I mean, that's promising. That's promising right there.
Yeah, man. So what do you think, man? I just gave my little defensive prediction. You think this could potentially be a top 10? Or?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's got the potential to be a top 10 defense, man. No question. I mean, if you remember to last season, we were a top 10 defense until maybe about week 7 or week 8. So I think a big part of that was our young guys, our young pups. So you remember Jonathan Allen, his first season he balled out, but
only 5 games or so.
Exactly, only 5 games. So his second, and mind you, they're coming from college where you only got 10 games a season. Yeah. So it was almost as if Daron Payne and John Allen burned out just a little bit towards the end of the season. Don't forget, man, Ioannidis had the club on his hand. He was still balling pretty good, but, he had the club on his hand. So the defense went downhill as those guys went down. You know what I mean? As those guys suffered from fatigue and injuries, the defense slowly deteriorated. So I think now we're at a spot where if we can keep those guys healthy for 90% of the games, if we have all 3 of them for 90% of the snaps this year, it's going to be – they could put me and you at Mike and Will linebacker, and we go out there and get 60 tackles each, man. The holes are going to be huge.
Don't forget who's coaching them up. Yeah, man. This D-line is going to be something to mess with, man. Like top 10 for sure. And with that, if the defense is top 10, when the defense is top 10, I think that'll make the job easier for the offense, which looks like it's going to be heavy in the run game, which is kind of obvious. But let's go ahead and just jump into our predictions, man. How do you see this season coming out, man? It's early. We still don't know who's going to start week 1. I'm leaning towards Keenum. I believe you're leaning towards Hassan. So let's just start with that. We'll dive into actual details of the QB battle another time, but just off the cuff, who do you think should start week 1?
Off the cuff, man. You already know, man. Start my boy Young Simba, the young lion. Free him, man. Shout out to Dwayne Haskins, man. I want to start him from day one. Why not? Why not, man? I mean, from what I've seen, and, you know, we've seen limited amount of training camp action thus far. We've only been here today. But from what I've seen today, it's only the third day. But from what I've seen, and we'll be back, so, you know, stick with us. But from what I've seen thus far, Dwayne Haskins has by far the most live arm out of the quarterbacks, and we knew that. But what I've also seen, something that I love, is Dwayne Haskins is hitting his running backs out of the backfield. That tells me that he already has advanced knowledge of what the NFL game really is. That's what it's turning into. You look down the field for your big play. If it's not there, go immediately to your running back. And a guy like Chris Thompson can turn what's supposed to be 3 yards into 15 every single time if you let him. So that's what I really like to see, what I'm like seeing from Dwayne. He seems to be ahead of his years, to be honest. So if it's on me, I'd say Dwayne Haskins. How about you?
So this is what's interesting to me, man, is it seems like there's two ways of thinking for Redskins fans right now. And, like, obviously we're all excited for Dwayne Haskins, but I believe some fans are thinking like you, Bryce, and other fans are a little bit thinking like me, where it's, all right, some fans are like, man, let's just go ahead, put Haskins in there, put him in the fire. Like, I like what I've seen already, and I think he can handle it. Whereas some fans are like me, where we're kind of like, nah, we got to protect Haskins. I almost want to put him in this bubble wrap. Until I see Trent Williams practicing, I don't even want Haskins out there with the ones. Like, it's not really the ones, or at least out in the O-line, until Trent Williams is out there. So don't even give me no little iffy Donald Penn signing, or please don't put him out there with Eric Flowers. Please don't put Haskins out there with Eric Flowers. And then, yeah, man, I want to take it slow with Haskins. When I think Haskins, I think more about 2020. When you look at the early part of this season, the schedule, which we're going to get into in a second, it's a tough schedule, man. It's a very tough schedule. We got the Patriots, I believe, week 5. And we all know what Bill Belichick does to rookie quarterbacks, man. He chews them up and he spits them right back out. Some say it could be a good learning experience. Others say it could scar you for your whole career, man. Bill Belichick, he's going to throw stuff at you that you've never seen on a football field. No matter how much film you watch, how much you study, he's going to throw something that you ain't ready for, that you haven't been thinking about. So, I mean, I would like to see Haskins this season, but let's see how the season goes, and then we can think about putting him in. If we struggle a little bit, you can go ahead and put him in. But who knows, man? Keenum's had success before, so if he's successful again, if he can be a good game-managing quarterback, a la Alex Smith was last year, then we might actually be able to win some games with Keenum just managing the game. One thing I do want to say, though, is I do not expect Colt McCoy to be the starter. I know some people keep throwing his name in the hat, and I know it's an open competition, but he was held out of practice today because of his leg injury that he's still coming back from. So I wouldn't expect McCoy out there at all. But, yeah, man, that's how I'm feeling about the QBs right now. We'll definitely get into that more as camp goes on, because all that is subject to change. If we get to the first preseason game and Haskins is out here lighting it up and Keenum's stinking it up, then I'm switching my week 1 prediction, like, no question. But
yeah, so you know what we'll do? We'll save that quarterback talk, that quarterback combo. We're going to save that for the last week of the preseason. We're going to come back to this, because after we're able to watch some of these preseason games, we'll all have a much better idea. But right now, you guys can hear, like, me and Rome agree on a lot. But this one here, we have differing opinions. But like he said, man, training camp will. I mean, I'm sorry, preseason will clear all that up for us. And I think leaving preseason, it will be a clear cut. Number one, there should be a clear cut guy that was standing above everybody else.
I agree with that, man. I definitely agree with that. I also agree that it won't be Colt McCoy. No disrespect to Colt. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this 2019 prediction, man. So obviously you believe Haskins might be the starter week 1. So how do you think the season is going to play out with our big time rookie quarterback?
Okay, well, for starters, man, regardless, Haskins, Keenum, even McCoy, any of the national pundits, the big time talking heads that are calling 3-13, 2-14, 4-12. Man, they can like my man Darius Guy said, they can kiss it, because that's not happening to this Redskins team, man. Like, we're not going to be that trash. And I understand there's a lot of moving parts to our team at the moment. A lot seems like it may be chaotic, but just trust me, guys. We're out here at camp, and we're seeing some of the most electrifying stuff that we've seen in some time with the Skins. offense and defense, and I don't see us being that bad. Now, could we be anywhere between 6-10 and 10-6? Yes. I'll even widen that. I think we could be anywhere from 6-10 to 11-5, and I think we're most likely to fall somewhere around the middle around that. So 8-8, 9-7 is what I see. But everyone predicting us to just be bottom dwellers, they're wrong. You know, it hasn't happened in years over here, and it's not happening. The guys play hard for Jay Gruden, and I can only see that improving this season. And yeah, I mean, I'm heading into this season with a lot of confidence. The good thing is we're flying under the radar, and when you fly under the radar, you got a chance to sneak up on some folks.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. I see I'm going to pencil us in. This is not my final prediction. Like we just said, preseason will probably change some of it. But I'm going to pencil us in before August at 8-8. And I know that's not exciting. That's not like what the fans want. And I might not keep Jay Gruden's job. But like Bryce was just saying, man, I don't foresee us being 2-14, 3-13. Like Jay Gruden hasn't had the bottom fall out of his team like that. But I will say this: I've looked a lot at the schedule, and those first 5 weeks will determine a lot. Philly and then Dallas, like it could go south. It could go south quick. Philly, Dallas, and then Chicago. So if for some reason you throw Haskins out there and he struggles like a rookie and we don't win, or Keenum's out there for the first couple games and he struggles like he has before in his career and we don't win these 3 games, then all of a sudden you go to New England, that's not a very winnable game at 0-3, then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like, so this could snowball rather quickly. So depending on, they're going to have a strong start, no question. But if it snowballs, even if it snowballs, I see us going on a run, and I don't see them finishing at 3-13. That's personally why I would like to have Keenum in there. I kind of see it going with Keenum, maybe a little bit of struggle in the beginning of the season. Then we throw Haskins in there once he's had a little bit more time to marinate, and then he comes in and has a big second half of the season for us and keeps us respectable. But and we have a lot of hope going into 2020. That's kind of how I foresee things happening now. Obviously, anything can happen in the NFL. So we'll see, man. We'll definitely see what goes down once the season starts, man. But
one thing to just keep a tab on is that there hasn't been a consecutive, I should say, division winner in the NFC East in about over 10 seasons now. So somebody new was winning this division every season. And what was the last time we did it? 2012? I mean, I think we're about due.
2015?
2015, yeah. Excuse me, yeah. We did win it that. So I think we're due. I mean, every 4 years, this will be the 4th year. So yeah. 2012 to 15, now to 19. I mean, hey, man, it could very well be our turn. And definitely excited to see where we go. All
right, well, let's go ahead and jump, while we're talking about the NFC East and possibly win it, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of talk about the NFC East real quick, just to get through this. If you guys didn't know, a little bit of news, I'm sure you heard already, but Zeke is holding out of Dallas camp. That's probably bigger than Trent Williams holding out for us. I think Zeke makes that team go. Big deal, no big deal?
Oh, man, that's a huge deal. Like you said, Zeke makes that team go. You know what? They should be called the Dallas Zekes because, I mean, without him, they lose. Their entire identity is just sacrifice, and that's not the same O-line where you can just plug in anybody and they're going to get you over 1,000 yards. It's not that O-line anymore. So they need Zeke as bad as Zeke once needed that O-line.
All right, let's jump to the Cowboys and the Eagles, man. A lot of people talking about these teams are going to be powerhouses in the NFC, and both have been picked to win the NFC East, but you just say you can see us winning it. So who's the team to really beat here? The last year's division winner, the Cowboys, or the Eagles, the most recent Super Bowl winners in the division?
Oh, well, you got to go with the Eagles. I mean,
I agree with that, man. That Eagles roster is ridiculous right now, man.
I mean, you got to go with the Eagles, especially with the work they did in the off season. I mean, they continue to add pieces. Now you got Deshaun Jackson back over there. They've got guys, man, and, you know, I hate to say it, but they are the team to beat, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, they got to be, man. And really, the only thing I think going to hinder them is Carson Wentz's health. If he's healthy, man, then they're going to be a force. All right, let's talk about the Giants. Really, let's just talk about Saquon Barkley because that's the only thing to talk about when it comes to the Giants. So Is Saquon? I came out with a top 5 list the other day, top 5 running backs. Y'all can check that out on the the app, if you haven't already downloaded the app, or on the website. But yeah, it's Saquon Barkley. I had him as my number 1 running back in the league. Am I too early on that? Am I jumping the gun, or is Saquon Barkley the best running back in the league?
Well, I mean, based off last season, you're not jumping the gun. I mean, you could very well be right on time with that call. For my money, he's not the best in the league right now, but he definitely has the potential to be the best. I mean, he has everything you want in a running back. And, I mean, Saquon Barkley, he does it all. And he'll be able to – he's the type of player that by himself could possibly keep the Giants relevant. Just because with Saquon, you've always got a guy that can take you to the house at any moment. So you just always got to be aware.
Yeah, one thing with Saquon and the Giants is they just had a bunch of injuries to their receivers. And it was we talked about this last season about how they potentially could run him into the ground. With Eli Manning throwing the way he's throwing, Daniel Jones being Daniel Jones, and all those injuries to the receivers, this might be the only year that Saquon is the best running back in the league, because his touches are gonna jump up. And I mean, it's just how it goes with running backs, man. It's a short career when you're getting hit that many times. But yeah, man. So let's just jump to some NFC East predictions real quick. If I had to pick right now, again, penciling this in, not a permanent prediction, I would say the Eagles. Eagles win the division, more than likely. If you just had to pick right now off the cuff, you think we got it, or?
Once again, you heard it here first. The 2019 Washington Redskins are your NFC East division champs. I know it sounds crazy right now, but I truly do believe, and I will eat my words right here on this show. If we do not get it done, fine. But I truly do believe the turnover in NFC East is inevitable. It's inevitable. Check the last 10 years if you want some proof. And I think that the Skins right now have an identity that matches up well with the rest of the division.
Man, I could see that. And if we win this division, if your prediction of us winning the division is right, then my prediction of the defense being top 10 will certainly be right. So I think those two things definitely go hand in hand. I'm just a little bit more sketchy on the offense, man. I feel like you're putting a lot of faith in Haskins, and rightfully so. But if he is the real deal, man, if he's how he was last year at Ohio State, 50 tuds and stuff, man, and we're looking good, man. We might be in there. But for now, I'm thinking Redskins. I'll go second place. I'll put us above Dallas for now, because I think they're going to have a not a terrible year, but it's not the year that Dallas fans are thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. Especially with this early chaotic situation with Zeke's holdout. Things could get ugly in a hurry in Big D, man. They've only really got three weapons when you're talking about Dak, Saquon, Amari Cooper. The supplementary pieces, the secondary weapons, not really there. So I could see the wheels falling off. The Giants, I don't really view them as having a legit shot. And the Eagles, man, we're talking about Carson Wentz's health. That's a major question. So there's certainly a number of factors surrounding the division that could severely alter, the path to the division championship.
Yeah, most definitely, man. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's get back to this walkthrough, this second practice. Or unless there was something else you wanted to go over right quick.
Nah, man, I think we hit just about everything, man. Like Rome said, if you guys don't have the Gas Sports app, definitely get on your iPhone, get on your Android, go to the marketplace and type in Gas Network. It'll pop right back up. You guys know the logo, the big gas with the brackets around it. Join the movement. Sports for the culture. We'll be here rest of the summer at Redskins Training Camp. We'll be giving you guys coverage every preseason game leading up to the season. Man, we can't wait. We've got some really good feelings about this season. And we're really excited to give you guys, our second season as a podcast covering the Redskins.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Stay with us. Stay tuned. We got some big things popping this season, some things coming up, and definitely stay tuned in to Gas, man. All you sports fans, if you like basketball, boxing, anything, man, Gas is definitely the network for you. And download that app, man. That way you get all the Hail to the Culture right when they come out.
Facts, man. All right, guys. Hail to the Culture. Signing off.
Free world. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so weak. My hitters be moving and shaking and stay out the streets. Your hitters be hating, your hitters be looking so. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster, snuff the money mover. Snuff the hater, snuff the player, snuff your hairline, tape up and shape up. Snuff the shooter, snuff the looter, snuff the booster, snuff the